get there. So here we are, live on Substack. Thank you very much, Dickie. This goes on to YouTube, which I know some people watch it there. So hello and thank you. And these conversations, I've really enjoyed them. And if you're enjoying them, tell people about them. Tell me about you, maybe, because I will ask this question of Dickie, which is, tell me your story. Dickie, I've got these beautiful objects, which we will come back to, if we may, with your name on it. And so, what does it feel like to have this object with your name at the front? Does it give you a little...
It's quite nerve-wracking, to be honest. Having your name on the front or something. No, it's a fantastic buzz. I mean, it's amazing when you walk into somewhere like a Waterstones or a Piccadilly Records and they've got my book on the shelf. It feels amazing, to be honest. So yeah, it's a total buzz, and the fact that people actually buy them as well is the most important thing. So it's great.
It's great. It is great to have that object, that very solid object. What I do as a performer is quite ephemeral. I come in, my raggedy piece of paper gets stuck on a community board, and then sometimes I still get a picture of someone who sees it, but then it's gone. But you've got these objects. So we'll come to those in a bit. First of all, Dickie, introduce yourself. If someone says that horrible question, what do you do? How do you answer?
Well, I never know how to, because I don't know whether it's about what you do for work or what you do for life or what you do for weekends. So it's really difficult. But I guess you've probably got me on the show because I write a little bit. So part of what I do is write, kind of freelance writer. I've written 3 books now over quite a long period of time, to be honest. But the first kind of trade I had was as a journalist. So I always wanted to be a writer. It was the only thing I was good at school because I was rubbish at everything else. So failed my maths GCSE, I think 6-7 times, Latin, history, geography, whatever, really poor grades. But English and English literature, I always did really, really well at. So it was the one thing I was only ever good at. And I think I just kind of, a bit like you, Gav, just like to tell a story. So writing enables you to tell a story. So I think that was it. And yeah, I was a journalist on the local newspapers in Merseyside for 3 or 4 years. I think I worked for every single title owned by then Trinity Mirror, Crosby Herald, Southport Visitor, Formby Times, Ormsgate Advertiser, Wirral News, before working up to Liverpool Echo and Liverpool Daily Post, where I was there for a few years, kind of mostly kind of hard news writing. So murder trials or inquests or fatal car accidents, and then the kind of like flip side was you'd go and meet a £13 million lottery winner or somebody famous. So it was just a bit of a crazy job. But yeah, journalist by trade. But for the last 20 years, worked in public relations, so marketing and PR, mostly in the arts. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last couple of decades. That's the kind of normal job, the kind of writing books and the writing articles for people feels like a bit of a hobby. It pays a little bit, but you're never going to pay the rent and pay the bills with it, really. So it is just a hobby, and it is fun, and I just love doing it. And especially times like this, because having written a couple of books about singer Morrissey, he's on tour right at the moment. So it's like that's the time when I'm selling books and I've got interest in my books. So, Dublin at the weekend, met a few fans there, Morrissey fans who bought my book and came over and talked about bits of the book and things like that. And it's just a bit surreal and it's a really nice feeling. So yeah. What was the question again? Who am I?
Yeah, that was good. So we'll whiz through the first one a little bit. I'll ask you some questions. So thank you. I'll tell you what I love. I genuinely love this. Thank you for signing them. I love a signed book. I'm that person who just loves a book and loves a signed book. So was this your first or second of the?
First one, yeah.
The first one, because this is a series of conversations, and I do love the fact that you are converting what were obviously conversations into stories. The stories of people that you plainly met on your journeys following Morrissey. But the first story, of course, is your own. And I found that really interesting. We're of a similar age. I've got a couple of years on you, but we're of a similar age. I was never into music really. As you know, soundtrack music was my thing, but bands and things, not really my scene. But what I was into, and that's what I think is what your books are about. They're about passion. They're about joy. They happen to be about the thing that you're passionate and joyful about, Morrissey. But what shines through is that. What's it like being a fan yourself and then talking to other fans? Do you feel that they open up to you? Is that why you can grab those stories?
Yeah, I think so, because like ultimately I'm a huge Morrissey fan, so and having followed him for the last 35 years, something like that. I've always been at the concerts and met fans, and the first book's called The Day I Met Morrissey. It's about fans who've met Morrissey because they see it like some kind of religious experience, and I see it like a religious experience. So yeah, I've always met fans, and the conversations I've had for 30 odd years in like queues outside concert venues and theatres are, how many times have you seen him? Like, did you ever see the Smiths? And then it goes on to like the third question is always, have you ever met him? So I always like those like conversations stood in queues outside rainy music halls, waiting to get into the venue. And so I guess it was from there. And I was always fascinated by stories of fans who'd met him and had kind of interesting conversations with him. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to try and explain who this character Morrissey is through people who've met him, through like fans. So that was it. But yeah, do people open up? Yeah, and I guess so. It's kind of easy now because I take photos too, and I also do videos. So I've done a couple of little mini documentaries when I was in New York a couple of years ago. Morrissey did a residency, and I made a fan documentary and interviewed people. And Morrissey used that on his like website. So I think that because people probably know me a little bit now in that very small circle of Morrissey world, when I ask to take somebody's picture, they generally say yes. Or when I say, can I do an interview or can I chat to you, they generally say yes. So I mean that's nice. Yeah, so yeah, that was the first book. It was a long time ago now, 16 years, I think. Oh God, where does the time go? But people still buy it. It's I've got 3 parcels to go to be sent in the morning. I think again because Morrissey's on tour now, and my name is floating around a bit. People are googling Dickie Felton books and are ordering. So it's always nice when Morrissey tours in terms of sales.
And this is the most recent one, yes?
It is, yeah.
It's a,
So
it's a beautiful object. It really is. I found it a very moving read, genuinely. I talked quite extensively about this with my son. He's 16, burgeoning musician, playing Beatles songs and their own songs in the Jacaranda at the weekend. And I talked to him a lot about fandom and and I've always had this challenge that when it comes to culture and the arts, um, you could be a fan and people will kind of look down on you. When it comes perhaps, and I know you stride the two, when it comes to sport, and if somebody says, "Oh, I'm paying this much to see my team in the Champions League in in some obscure Eastern European country," and people go, "Ah, I have a good time," and if you perhaps would say, "Oh, I'm going to see this actor, this performer, this comedian, this singer, I'm going to see them 20 times in a year," people will go, "Oh, really?" But if you go and see a football team 40 times in a year, no one cares. What? So that's what I love: passion, I love joy, and I love people's pleasure, and that's what this is full of. Can I just a couple of technical things? Did you set these? Did you design the book?
no, so I worked with a really brilliant artist called Iman Kakai, who doesn't live too far away from me, and she's produced artists with different musicians in recent years and different people in the arts. And uh, I knew I wanted to do this book, and I thought I'd really love to do it with Iman if she was interested in it. And I just sent her like an email and I said, all these pictures I've been taking at Morrissey shows the last couple of years and people I've been talking to, I really want to turn it into a book. And I said, on the off chance, would you be interested? And 30 seconds later, she said, yes, absolutely, let's do it. And I was like, what? I was like, seriously? Because wasn't really expecting it to be so positive and enthusiastic and totally up for it. But she was. So, I only really we only really had the conversation maybe in February of last year, and by June we'd done the book, and the book was out. Maybe July, the book was out. So it was just a really fast process. But Iman designed everything. She had quite a clear idea on how we were going to do some of the images, and yeah, she's worked miracles really with it. Nobody else would have done as good a job as Iman has, and I had some really wonderful. Again, you try and like squeeze it in with your normal job, whatever our normal jobs are. And I tend to most Friday afternoons I go around and sit down with a man and her partner Jason, and he would cook amazing food, and me and Amanda would be sat there over a huge screen, kind of working out where the images were going to go. And it was a wonderful experience, and we'd have like some really nice music on, and so the whole process. I mean, doing it can be a bit stressful, especially when you've had like a load of pre-orders. So I think I'd had maybe 400 pre-orders. So people had paid money, and they were like, right, like supported me. It's like, oh wow, I've got to get this book to them as soon as possible. So there's a little bit of pressure in that, when people are buying something from you, that it's got to be out on time, and it was a little bit later than it should have been. But Iman has done a marvelous job on it, and I think it's just essentially it's a photographic and written diary of the 23-24 Morrissey World Tour. But also there's a few things going on underneath that as well.
Yeah.
So for me, I was going through quite a lot of life changes during that tour at that time. And I kind of mentioned there's a few paragraphs, not loads, but a few little paragraphs in there where really startling and amazing things happened to me. And it's been interesting because most people, when they see me talk about the Morrissey aspect of the book, and then I've had the occasional person saying, wow, what's going on in your life? I was like, I know. So I just
It
thought,
was
well,
it was it was a passionate book because I read it in one. I felt the passion and the connection and the story of you, and I knew it was, and to me, it was to agree about a degree about Morrissey and about a tour, but it wasn't. It was a snapshot of you through a lens of this connection, and that's why, as I say, I found it very, very a moving read. I would thoroughly recommend it. Genuinely, it was it's very, very rarely. I wasn't. I don't know much about Morrissey. I've held this off. I've never met him. I have seen him twice in 1 week, and I think he gave me an odd look.
Come on, Gav, where did you see him?
Because the second time I saw him, I think I'm quite recognisable. First, it was in Chester in the 90s, late 90s. And I was walking through, and I don't know what it was. I think I was a bit full of myself. I just gave him a wave and said, all right, Stephen, nice to see you. Across the road. And he went, and then about 4 or 5 days later, I was walking out of Manchester Airport and he was walking in. And I looked at him and nodded, and he looked at me like this.
I know people who've waited their entire life to meet Morrissey. They still haven't met Morrissey, and you kind of meet him twice in a week.
I didn't cross the road. I thought he looked like he was on his way to do something. I just said, all right.
The one in the late 90s may have been because he played Chester Northgate Arena in December 1997. It may have been on that day.
Might have been. I think there've been, because I did my degree there, there've been talk of him on the streets in Chester a few times, for whatever reason. But yeah, I've been saving that one. But as I say, the look of terror on his face when he saw me in the same week in Manchester Airport, I will cherish.
It's funny. I think that when people like see him, it's almost like spotting the kind of Yeti, or the kind of like, it's like spotted. I mean, in the last hour, I've had a message from somebody who has just said to me, Dickie, and so this person isn't a Morrissey fan. It goes, I'm on a Irish ferry going to Stranraer, and your mate Morrissey is on the ferry. So he's obviously on his way to Scotland to play his gig tomorrow night in Glasgow. So
he's had a couple of days. The people that you feature in in this book, how do they feel? Do they feel because you're so it's so kind the way you write about people. It's so warm. It's so human. Um, it's judgment free
I'm
and
gonna
it's
start crying
open.
in a minute, Gav. This is like no one's ever said nice things like this.
No, honestly, I got really moved by it. Um, um, because it's a real thing of mine. And then I went to see Doctor Who, which I'm a nerd, but I'm not like a passionate. I wouldn't say I'm on the same level. But I was in a room of people who were in their happiest place. I watched people who were outsiders, who were could be construed as being different, and I saw them happy and laughing and dancing at the theme tune and joyful and expressing themselves with excitement. And I love that. I love seeing that. I very rare. I'm fortunate in that I get to see that sometimes in the work I do with young people, and it makes me sad that we lose that as adults, unless it's something where we can go, "Ugh, yeah, we beat you." Well, that's so back to my question, which was people who you featured in here. How do they feel?
Yeah, they tell me that they're very happy to be in the book and they're made up. I think the thing is with a lot of the pictures for this book is when I was taking the pictures, I didn't know it was going to result in a book. You know, I was taking pictures, I was putting them out on social media. You know, there's like a few people who made it happen. You know, there was a guy in Nashville, USA, who said, "I love the pictures you're putting out on the Morrissey tour, but please make them black and white." And I was like, okay. And once I made the picture black and white, I was like, oh wow, they do
Yeah.
stand out a bit more black and white. They look better. And I don't know whether it's the whole kind of atmosphere of the dance hall and that
Two
kind of thing.
tone. It's very stylish, and that is a timeless image. That's
You
because
know,
that.
yeah, I just when I so this was so I took that photo in I think it was the United Palace Theatre in New York City, October 2023. And this fan just appeared. He was sat on the steps inside the theatre. And I just thought he'd look so cool. Daffodils, Smith's t-shirt, headphones, piercings, the shaggy hair just looks amazing. And I actually sunk to my knees to take that picture because he was sat almost on the ground. So I had to get really low to take the picture. I asked him permission. I took the picture. And it was only really when I got home back to England, I was flicking through and I went, oh my God, that's a great, you know, it's not often I say one of pictures is good, but I thought, oh wow, I've struck lucky with this one. And so it's always going to be the cover, really. The interesting thing is, I've never been able to track down that fan to tell them that they're on the front of the book. So
Wow.
I've tried. Um, so no, it does feel it's almost like that picture could have been from the 1980s as well.
Yes.
You know, the 2023.
If it wasn't for the headphones, which date them, it could be an 80s. It could be a 90s. It could be an 80s. It could be, but it is to me. It's that epitome of a person who is living their connection to something they love, and that's great.
But I think it's about, you know, the Morrissey concerts, and it is that thing that people just feel that they're free and they have that spark and excitement. And watching him in Dublin at the weekend, it's not just like kind of 90 minutes when he's on stage. It's the arriving, it's spotting somebody else walking down Grafton Street or whatever in a Morrissey t-shirt. It's the buzz, it's the messages you get through. I've just landed or I've just arrived. It feels like it's a gathering of maybe kind of people, kind of outsiders who, when they get together, feel like they're part of something. Um, and for me, it's just like criminally underrepresented. You know, it's not really written about. So I thought, well, I'll write about it. Nobody else is writing about it, so I will.
no, I think you really hit something there. Because we have these things. So I've grabbed hold of this thing. I said this to you before. I said this to everybody I've interviewed. I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I don't. It is. We sometimes rate ourselves against what is acceptably, I don't know, for want of a better word, cool or in but of course that's never the case. And there's there's a homogenized approach to everything, which I enjoy. But sometimes when you really go down to something, whether it's music or some obscure book, when you get down to that passionate connection, I love it when people come together. I love that kind of, because how do you, I mean, I'm ADHD, as you could tell, but when two ADHD people talk, like Mima and I last week, when it's just like, duh, 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 and you'll have that, won't you? Oh, there was Dublin. Oh, there was Vegas. Oh, did you see? And did you see the tour? It must be such a beautiful shared thing.
It is completely that, and I think there's also the feeling that it won't go on forever. Morrissey's 66, is he now? Um, you know,
66, and he still gets his shirt off.
well, yeah, he took his shirt off in Dublin on the Saturday night, yeah. But I think the Morrissey thing, it's about living for the moment, and like, unfortunately, we're all going to die, so it's like, do what you love and enjoy yourself, and go out and go to concerts and go to plays and go to art galleries and go to your favorite restaurants
Yeah.
and make the most of things while you're here. So I think there's that as well. Nobody's getting any younger. I think that, I'm 52 in a couple of weeks. You just feel like, right, okay, like, I've lived a lot of my life now. I've been very fortunate to get to 52. I'd like to go on a lot further. So I think there's that, and like Morrissey talks about that quite a lot during concerts and things. It's and a lot of the lyrics, and there's a lot about mortality, and so I think it's like we get there, we have an amazing time, and you when you're there, you forget about everything. My head kind of empties of, I don't know what my name is, I don't know what day of the week it is when I'm watching him, when I'm experiencing that. And I came out of Dublin on Saturday with Kath, and we're walking down the banks of the Liffey, and I could, neither of us could like really talk. We're just kind of overcome by watching Morrissey together. So,
And that's brilliant, and that comes across, because you write about that experience post a gig, and it's beautiful. It is beautiful. So we could talk about this a long time. And I mean, as I say, I'm aware of Morrissey. I know his work. I've always found him very funny. I don't know. I think he's one of those people that is often interpreted. He comes from, to me, as an outsider, he comes from that great line of nihilistic, amusing, very, and I don't think you'll like this, maybe English camp of a certain time. You can go down through Joe Orton and Arch. I read E.F. Benson's one of my favorite authors from the 30s, and he was very arch and talked a lot about death and but very funny as well. But we're not here to talk about Morrissey. We're here to talk about Dickie Felton. You're a writer, and that pains me. Not you being a writer. I get pain writing. How do you sit down with the blank when you've been commissioned perhaps for something in work or something? How do you sit down with a blank page and start? Are
well,
you
I
an
guess,
early morning person? Oh, I hate those people.
yeah, I am nowadays. Yeah, the older I've got, the earlier I get up, and the earlier I go to bed though as well. I go to bed very early. Um, I guess because I write so in my kind of PR job that I do in marketing, so I do different things in what I call my kind of real job. So I do communications for a music venue in Barrow called Full of Noises. We're a venue that puts on experimental and weird kind of music, amazing music. So I look after the website and the social media and things like that. So I've got that audience, and then also do freelance work for a organisation called National Rural Touring Forum, which is the umbrella organisation for rural touring, which is all about bringing amazing cultural experiences to village halls and places a little bit off the beaten track. And then the writing, the freelance writing, it's generally, I'm in a good position nowadays where I basically pitch to magazines and newspapers and say, I'd like to write about A, B, or C. And they either say to me, no, we're not interested, or occasionally they'll say, yes, we'll take 750 words, or we'll take 1,000 words on that. So So I'm quite fortunate in that I don't really get told what I have to write about. I think if I was told, Dickie, you've got to write something about pensions or something, I'd be like, oh my God, no. But if I can choose, I'd like to write about something, a subject matter. I'm based here in a place called Carnforth, which is on the Lancashire Cumbria kind of border. I'm right next to the Carnforth train station where they shot a very amazing movie called Brief Encounter. I'd really like to write something about Brief Encounter. So it's like I can. So I'm probably going to go and pitch that to somebody because it's the 80th anniversary of that film. But in terms of pressure, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's difficult. I might sit at a screen and nothing really happens. But I think I was schooled quite well. So working on local newspapers, and then working for the Liverpool Echo, you had 4 or 5 deadlines every day working for the Liverpool Echo. So you couldn't think, in terms of those short, sharp news stories, you just had to get them done. It was the facts, it was like who, what, where, why, when, isn't it? Those kind of like principles of just tell the story, and then because I worked for the morning paper, the Liverpool Daily Post, that was bigger features. So then you could let yourself go a bit. Then you could express yourself a little bit in those features, but only a little bit. So I guess I was schooled in doing things like that. So, um, so you just got to churn it out. That said, if I've got to write like a boring report about something, I'm always going to struggle. But I guess it's like I've got to be interested in it. But that's me all over. It's like if like I'm all or nothing. And I sometimes wish it wasn't like that. But there's no real middle ground. I'm either 100% into something, so passionate about it, I really love this, or I'm like I'm not interested at all. so so I'm fortunate in the jobs that I do working for the Noises, which is to do with music and artists creating amazing experiences for audiences, and things like rural touring as well, which is again bringing fantastic cultural experiences to places along B Road Britain, as it were.
And idiots
It's
like
slightly
me
off the
now and
beaten
again.
track and a bit eccentric and fun. Well, I love that. That's great.
So I mean, the brief encounter thing sounds brilliant, especially with a date connected to it. But do you have anything else bubbling, brewing? Is there a fourth Morrissey tome within you?
It's
What's next?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say no because I've only done three books and they've all been about Morrissey or Morrissey fans, Morrissey fan culture. It's like you really need to do something else, and I am very interested in football and music, and there is other things that I would like to do.
You are a bootle bruiser.
I've not heard that phrase for a long time.
Well, I have because I've read your books.
Yeah, Little Bruises. Yeah, that was in the first book. That yeah, yeah. Morrissey referred to me and my pals as the Bootle Bruisers. This is going back 20 years, purely because we were from Liverpool. He used to follow him round to all his gigs. So, and I think he thought that I was from Bootle. I'm from Crosby, which is not far from Bootle, but no, I would like to write something a bit more serious, to be honest, and a bit more heavyweight in terms of subject matter. I have got a really dark idea, to be honest, but which I might just start to explore. And I think books always just start with, you just start to explore. You don't intend to write, this is going to be a book. I don't think. I just thought I'll start, and is this going to, the photos in York, is this going to be a book? Can I make a book out of this? And so yeah, I have got ideas, and,
So do
and
you
I think,
journal?
sorry.
I mean, this felt like a journal, a diary, like I said. But do you journal? Are you still writing about your experience? So you've said that you were in Dublin this weekend. Have you written something about that? Just to get the facts out, or
No, I mean, I take lots of pictures and lots of photos, and I also take lots of photos of things we, which maybe other people might ordinarily not take pictures of. And it's more recording something for my like as notes. It's like visual
yes,
notes. So
yes,
in Dublin at the weekend, I was taking little pictures of little things. I thought actually that might make something. We were by the Oscar Wilde Memorial in one of the public parks there, and there's a great thing with Oscar Wilde's quotes written all over it. I got a few pictures of that, so I'd love to use some of them. And then I thought, some of his quotes. We all should be reminded of some of Oscar Wilde's amazing quotes because they're so uplifting, especially when you're feeling down or feeling a little bit outside what's going on. So yeah, I'm more a visual note taker like that. I take a lot of pictures which will never see the light of day, but serve as taking a note. I do a lot of screen grabs.
I get you.
If like someone's made a comment, so the book I might write, I've seen a few people talking about it. Talking about the subject matter on Facebook, and I've got interesting things to say. So right, okay, take a screen grab. I'll contact him at some point, or I'll contact her at some point. So I need to remember the people's names. For right, they're the people who I'm probably going to have to go to try and explore whether this will turn into something.
Well, so we'll start to draw this together, Dickie. But before we move on, I'm not a big Smiths fan. I love. There's a couple of Morrissey songs that I adore. First of the Gang to Die, and I've always thought it was a beautiful song. But as a record of passion and joy and also this is a very reasonable thing to say. It's brilliant to feel the passion from for a subject from someone who's older. Sorry about that. And it not being about sport. Because I read anything a lot of the time. I've read, you read, and I never watch boxing, but good writers about boxing are often passionate, and that's what I got from reading this. So I can really genuinely, thoroughly recommend it. It stimulated some brilliant conversation with my son. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Gav.
For all
Honestly,
that.
that's so nice. The way to set up. My head's like this now.
Good.
Thank you very much.
These are objects. These are carved. These are they you say, oh, everyone's got a book in them. It's like, well, I think if I do, I'd have to go to A&E to get it removed. That's the only way. I don't think I could ever get something out on paper the way that you have. So I'm endlessly impressed. So we've got a couple of people here. We don't have to, but if you want to ask Dickie a question, now's the time to think about something and put that in. But I like to know what your comfort culture is. Now I unreasonably said you could easily say Morrissey. I understand that. We'll take that as a given. But what is it? The book, the film, the music, the thing that you return to? I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I think we should have joy in the things that we find comforting. What's on your list?
Well, I mean, I absolutely love music. I love so many other groups, so many other artists. I go to a lot of live concerts. I just find the live music environment so uplifting and alive. But something I absolutely love is late night radio, late night BBC radio, and in particular, a couple of different shows. So there's a program on BBC Radio 3 called Night Tracks.
Yeah.
Which plays very mellow, chilled out. Could be classical, could be movie soundtrack, could be experimental music, could be something entirely different. So, of an evening, the phone goes off and BBC Night Tracks comes on, and I sometimes set a little timer for it to switch off after 45 minutes or 60 minutes. So generally sends me to sleep, which probably. Which is no reflection on the quality of the music. It's just because it's took my mind to a certain place, and I find it very relaxing. And there's another late night program called Unclassified, which Elizabeth Alka does, and again, I love that as well. And some of the music which we feature at Full of Noises in Barrow is on those two programs, Night Tracks. Radio. What else? I mean, I go to lots of art galleries. I used to work for National Museums Liverpool. I love social history museums. I go to lots of art galleries. I think that they, again, good art can take you to all kinds of places. So, I mean, I was in the Walker Art Gallery last week. I was in a couple of galleries in Ireland last week. Wherever I go, I'll gotta seek out the art gallery usually.
How lucky is Liverpool to have the Walker? It is a majestic building with incredible images. Been there so many times. I'm only a 25-year resident of Liverpool, but when I was a student, I remember standing there and looking at some of the pictures that are still there, and the stories in them are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough to work there for 5 years. Obviously, National Museums of looked after 8 or 9 venues, so the Walker was like one of them. And when I got the job at the museums, so I'm very into the kind of maritime side of
Yeah.
Liverpool's history. So I was all over the Maritime Museum, and then we were just opening the Museum of Liverpool, so the social history, the music, and the writing, and Liverpool life. I was into all that, and and the art probably was a bit lower down, and it was a subject matter that I knew least about. Um, so having to do comms and PR for the Walker Art Gallery and some of the collections and the exhibitions was a bit of me out of my comfort zone. But that's probably what started a bit love of art. So I have got a lot to thank National Museums Liverpool for in that respect. In that, I could probably hold a decent conversation about some of the artworks in there now. But when I first went there, it would be like, this is me out of my depth. But everywhere I go now, like an art gallery is, where can we go? Like, plus my partner Kath is obsessed with art as well. So that always helps. She like sometimes does the kind of legwork first, as like go to this gallery or we have to see this exhibition. So that's good as well.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Dickie. I'm so grateful for your time. And it was a real pleasure getting to delve into that passionate part of you as well. Just to tell you, from a professional level, I'm actually working on Friday, so I'm going to miss the workshop that you run. You run a brilliant workshop on PR marketing for low life artists like myself. So I'm just saying, could you mark me as absent in the register?
I'll do that. Yeah, you've got a good excuse, Gav. But no, thank you for coming along to those drop-ins.
They're great. They're great. You know your stuff, and it's been really because you have that wide-ranging experience as a creative and an artist yourself, but also in comms, PR, and storytelling for particular audiences. It's been very, very inspiring because it is a dark art what you do in PR. And if we knew how to do it, we'd sell everything out all the time, wouldn't we? Because there's enough people in the country, but how we get to them and how then we hook them.
The challenge.
It is the challenge. Dickie, thank you so much.
Gav, thank you. It's been an absolute honour to be on, honestly.
Hardly, but
feel
very
really
kind of you.
absolutely buzzing here. So
Good. You should be. Thank you. Right, take care. Enjoy the rest of that can, and I'll speak soon. Bye bye, everybody. I'm gonna click Dickie there, and so he can relax and breathe out, and say thank you so much to Dickie Felton there. Obviously, you can link to his Substack here, but then I'll put links to his website and his books in the notes for this post and for this YouTube if you're watching it on YouTube. And you can also, if you know his work, tell me what you think, but also what are you reading? What are you enjoying? What are you watching? What can you recommend this week? That's that I'm always interested in that. So my name's been Gav Cross. I very rarely introduce myself. I am a storyteller. What have I got coming up? If you're anywhere near Blackburn with Darwin on June the 14th, I've got my family silly storytelling show, Telltale Twit. And then I've got Bradford Literature Festival coming up where War of the Worlds is going to feature. That's an exclusive. And then Summer of Shakespeare before a Winter of Ghost Stories. So lots going on. Thank you for your time. Next week, Kate and Chris of A Place for Us, of the aforementioned Shakespeare Jaunts, absolute fantastic creatives, passionate makers of theatre, yes, but absolutely committed to drawing the best out of the communities they work with as well. A real privilege to work with them, and I'm looking forward to talking to them. We talk a lot as well. Thank you very much. Have an enjoyable evening, and don't forget to catch up with brilliant conversations I've had already. These inspiring creatives, Linny and Kate and Helen, who has workshops running, and of course last week Mima, whose website is now live, and Dickie. His book's worth the time, I promise you. Bye bye.